Okay, folks, this is how you know I'm kind of stretched thin for video ideas right now. I've got different stuff planned, okay? But when Criterion season ends, it's like immediately a reset of like, okay, what do I do on the channel? Well, since a lot of you are collectors, and I've gotten some comments about my comic book collection and people wanting to see my comics, I figured I'd make a video all about my comics, believe it or not. So, that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to talk to you guys about my entire comic collection. We're going to start with some of the smaller items out here, and then I'm going to take you into my closet and show you kind of my big omnibuses, which I do have quite a few omnibus collected editions and quite a big shelf of that. So definitely stick around. If this first part bores you, fast forward to that, to the bigger items. But I'll kind of work through this first part a little bit quick for you. I hope you guys are comic book fans. I have this box here of comics. These are going to be like single issues or trade paperbacks mostly. And I've been collecting comics really since, I would say seriously, since maybe like 2016, and I use seriously lightly. But I went through a phase where I got really into it. But when I was a kid, prior to that, I used to go to comic book stores with my dad. And he would always let me just pick out some comic. And, when you're a kid, you kind of just pick up a single issue. You don't know what came before it, what came after it, or maybe even a trade paperback. But again, it's part of a long running series. And so I had a lot of those as a kid, just random one-offs, a few that I'm particularly nostalgic for. But one of the things that I loved to do as a kid, maybe my first form of artistic expression, I would say, was actually drawing my own comic books. I'm sure many of you guys did this too. I took it pretty seriously, though. I actually would write, full-on comic books and then staple them together and make my own actual books out of them. And I did this maybe through 10th grade until I was like 16 or something. My favorite thing to do would be to save up my allowance money and go to like a hobby store and pick up issues that had cool artwork, because then I would use that artwork as reference. So if you look at any of my like Spider-Man comics, basically all of the images are just pretty much rips from the comic book images that I could reference. And so, that was a really fun thing for me, was just drawing comics of my own. And so I always loved the artwork in comic books. Anyway, enough about me. I've got The Killing Joke, this edition of The Killing Joke in hardcore. What the fuck am I saying? This is a deluxe edition of the Alan Moore book, which is quite dark and quite fun. I got this comic book when I was pretty young, actually, too. But I like this hardcover edition. I think the recoloring is done very nicely. It's a good book. You already know about The Killing Joke. I have it. I think this is one of the better comic books in the Batman series, which is rightfully acknowledged by many fans as being that. Batman Damned, the controversial book in which you see Bruce Wayne's wiener. However, that single edition sold out so quick and then became a rare commodity because they reprinted it with it being shadowed in the darkness. So now it's just the outline maybe, or you can't really see it at all. So that edition goes for a lot of money online. I was collecting comics at the time those were coming out, and of course me and my friend tried to get our hands on that. I don't know why that's such a big deal, but for whatever reason it was. This is part of DC Black Label. I actually really quite liked Damned. I think in the end it got kind of middling reviews, being a little bit unfocused. But the art style of Damned is really cool. Well, you can see kind of here. It's just got a really unique art style that I really appreciate. And I like how kind of trippy and psychedelic and thought-provoking this book is. So yeah, I'm actually quite a big fan of this. Azareo and Bermejo, I think, did a good job on it. I probably said those names incorrectly. But this just kind of gave me a thought as I was looking through this and seeing some of the art. I realized how much AI has fucked with my head. And now when I see art, no matter the quality of it, my first thought is that AI or not? It's like my detectors come on. When this came out well before AI was a thing, I mean, it's only been like the last 4 or 5 years that I feel like it's just been increasingly flooding everything, the AI art, which is really just discouraging to me as someone who really cares about the medium and cares about protecting artists and the craft of it. I mean, I worked for an animation studio for about a year and a half and worked with different illustrators and artists who are very talented, and to just know that now these smaller companies, like we have a local brewery in Utah called Shades, which I've basically boycotted even though I loved their beer, because they use AI artwork for their cans. And that's the exact type of clientele that a small artist would have been able to actually get some work from before, like local businesses. But it's so easy to just type shit into your search engine and create and generate an image now. And in most cases, people can't even tell that it's AI. And so, yeah, this isn't supposed to be an AI ramble, but I just really, really dislike the use of AI when it comes to anything entertainment or art related. I get you want to write a professional sounding email at work, fine, whatever. But when it comes to working its way into our creative pursuits and having it help, like maybe fix your scripts or give you YouTube ideas. I mean, if you look at the YouTube studio in the creator segment, there's all this stuff that says generate ideas, and it will pitch me ideas. It'll even create thumbnails for me. It's just kind of a scary prospect to think about. I know that there's probably a lot of YouTube creators out there that come up with their script and then pass it through AI first, or use their titles and put them through AI generators and just figure out the best way. And it just feels really insincere to me, but I guess the entire idea of trying to put a video online to make money from it just feels insincere to begin with. So there's always a push and pull for that with me. Anyway, if it makes you feel any better as a viewer, I just make these because I do genuinely love it. Obviously, if you look at my subscriber count and my general views, I don't really make much money from this channel at all. But it's something that's given me this amazing creative outlet to talk to you guys about things like my comic book collection and share things that I don't get to really share with people. And so it's really fun. So thank you for coming and watching. Of course, it's not like I'm going to deny the ability to grow this thing, and it would be amazing if I could make more money off this so that I could do it, more often. But again, that's not what any of this was about, but thank you for sitting through my tangent here. I'm going to get back to comics. Batman and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I have the hardcover edition of this, and I've got its 2 sequels in hardcover, but not the deluxe edition. I really enjoy these comics. I actually think I did review them on this channel like years ago, maybe in 2018. I'm a big fan of them. I actually think they did the crossover very well. I'm a Ninja Turtle fan, so you're going to see that throughout my comics. And I just think the blend of them into the Batman world worked really well. So yes, I recommend these. Okay, here's another batch of trilogies. I've got the Batman The Long Halloween, Batman Dark Victory, and Batman Haunted Night, which my Dark Victory is bent, and that fucking pisses me off. I really like these editions. They have this kind of soft matte texture that I really just like. I like the aesthetic of them. Here's where I'm going to get a little controversial. When you first get into comics, and you start collecting, you just find all of these videos telling you the top 5 Batman comics, or Google tells you the top 5 Batman comics, and The Long Halloween oftentimes comes up in that list. I didn't really care for it. It was long-winded, boring. I don't care for the art style personally. It's just not my jam. I'm probably pissing a lot of people off with that, but this is my channel, and that's just how I feel about it. As someone who tried to get into comics in a more serious way around the age of like 22, 23 for me. I'm 33 now. And I was just eating up all the Batman stuff and trying to get into it. These were books that I struggled to get through, and just didn't really care for. Now, Tim Sale, who does the art, it is a specific style that I think I can like in certain situations, because he did do a couple of books I really loved, like Daredevil Yellow and Spider-Man Blue. I really specifically like Spider-Man Blue a lot. There's another one, Captain America White. I just don't have any interest in that. But these are also Jeff Lubb and Tim Sale. They work together a lot, and the art style is still the same kind of. It's not my favorite, but for some reason it really does work in this Spider-Man one for me more than it does in others. And then the Daredevil one it does too, but I think it's just so cool to see Daredevil in this kind of throwback yellow outfit in it. I just love that. So those are cool. Batman Year One, Frank Miller. This one's as good as it's promoted. This is oftentimes considered one of the best Batman comics. It has kind of an old school art style. I mean, it's Frank Miller. It's similar to looking at like Watchmen. This heavily influenced Batman Begins, and you can see that right when you start reading this. I do think this is kind of an essential when it comes to Batman. It's a nice matte cover edition that I have here. I think all of them are pretty nice. There's been like a million versions of this book. Big, small. I have more Batman, but next up is the Superman, All-Star Superman, which, I'll be honest, I haven't read. So, but I've heard it's one of the greatest Batman comics, but it's Jeff Leb and Tim Sale again, and I just said Batman, but I mean Superman. Yeah, just don't love the art style. It looks daunting, but it supposedly is really one of the best Superman comics. Okay, so I must have gotten rid of my other trade paperbacks from Batman. I used to have the Harley Quinn Black Label, but it just wasn't my favorite. I had a couple other Joker stories, and the big one is Batman Dark Knight Returns, which is another Frank Miller that I wasn't that big of a fan of. A lot of people say this is the other essential Batman comic. Oh, and Hush. Yeah, I sold Batman Hush. Not big on Hush either. It's just like a chaotic action after action, which can be cool and all, but it just didn't really add up to much when it came to the mystery. It was very obvious what the mystery was very early on in Hush. It was very drawn out. The art in Hush, though, is bar none. It's some of the best art in a Batman comic. So for that reason, I think it gets a lot of praise. But yeah, when it comes to like the main core Batman books like those, the only one I really care for is Year One. Spider-Man childhood book. I actually have a lot of fun with these Straczynski ones, but I really miss the art from like early 2000s comics, which granted that was when I was a kid, and so I have a lot of fondness for them, but I do love the art in this book. I used to draw, for my Spider-Man comics. I used to just copy a lot of images out of here, but it's just so beautiful. Absolutely love it. I've read it a couple times, especially as a kid. I wouldn't trust my opinion on the story because it's completely nostalgia-based. I don't really know. Another nostalgic one for me, Tomb Raider, Mystic Artifacts. This is a trade paperback from the Tomb Raider, series. Again, this early 2000s artwork is just so good. I love the detail. I love the eccentricities of it. It's so over the top. It just fits that early 2000s vibe in a way that I particularly love. And this Tomb Raider Mystic Artifacts, in my opinion, this is one of the best Tomb Raider stories. If we're going for stuff that's based on like the PlayStation games, or you want to talk about like Angelina Jolie's movies, like that vein of Tomb Raider before she was kind of brought down to earth in the reboots, back when it was like a very exaggerative character. This is some of the best Tomb Raider stuff. It's awesome. I love it. Another one from my childhood, this Wolverine, Enemy of the State, is one of the better Wolverine books. Haven't read it in forever, though. Drew a lot of the artwork from it when I was a kid. And lastly, my Ninja Turtle Power Ranger crossover. Another surprisingly great crossover. It's just wild to me how many good Ninja Turtle crossovers there are. So I recommend this book. This is one that I got more recently, and I really love it. It's great. All right, that's all that I'm going to show you from this box. We're going to move on to my bigger collected sets. So I hope you're ready. Welcome to my closet. This feels like a terrible angle. I'm sorry that you have to witness this. And I'm more apologetic to my wife that people have to see our closet. This is my side, if you couldn't tell by the comics up there. I'm going to start over here. Okay, I've got all these Batman omnibuses. This is the Grant Morrison Batman. Oh, this actually is kind of cool. Alright, I'm not that mad at the angle anymore. Sorry, I have to keep looking up at the monitor to make sure I'm in frame here, but... Okay, the first two volumes, I read the entirety of them. I actually really liked some of the story beats here. It was probably my favorite Batman long-running story that I've read. But this one is, this volume 3, the reason I kind of stopped here is because I did think the story ran out of steam. It kind of resets the story a little bit, and I just wasn't that into it when I started it, so I stopped reading it. Now, I did sell, I've had some other Batman omnibuses that I've sold because I just got so hard into Batman. I was like, it's got to be good. People say that the comics are good. Maybe I just didn't love the big one, so I got some newer, like, omnibuses, and I think for the most part, I just haven't loved it. So, getting into this next set I have here, this is Batman by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. You're probably familiar with this. This is a nice set. I mean, I like this collection here. It's Beautiful packaging, beautiful artwork, and the first story is The Court of Owls, which is like 8 issues. It's probably one of the best Batman stories I've ever read. But then there's a huge drop-off, and maybe the biggest issue for me with this is when you get a collected series like this, you want the story to continue off of one another. But this is just not a very continuous story. And for it being that this is the Scott Snyder run, I just don't love that it resets, I guess. I wanted it to feel like it had continuity. I started with Volume 2, and I didn't even realize it. This is Volume 1, though. An even fatter book. This is the one with the Court of Owls in it. Volume 2 has a pretty cool story with the Joker in it. But they both mostly fall off. But I do like the book quite a bit. Check out that artwork. It's a nice matte cover. Really beautiful. Big, bulky. Next up, I have the hardcover edition of Witchblade. This is the Kickstarter. Well, it's been kickstarted. This is not the Kickstarter edition. I got the Kickstarter editions of the later ones. I've read almost all of this book. This one's just very nostalgic for me. It's by the people that did Tomb Raider. And yeah, I don't know. There's obviously just that very early 2000s look and feel to it. Just everyone's just like super buff, beautiful, and ripped, and then wearing like leather and shit, you know. I'm trying to find you some better images of that. I don't know. But you get the idea. Yeah, then I have the Kickstarter slipcover edition of Volume 2, which is really nice. I think that they got better. The artwork got better here with how they kind of put together the cover. It was kind of ridiculous on that first one. It was just like a jumbled mess of art that I didn't love. But this is like the most uncomfortable, crouched, awful video positioning that I've ever done. I gotta figure out something else. Maybe I'll just come down a little bit so I don't have to crouch. There we go. Volume 3, obviously, there you go. Very sexualized cover there. This one is also the Kickstarter slipcover special edition. I feel like what they would do in the early 2000s is try to sell you with the cover art being like extremely sexual to sell like 12-year-old boys to buy it. And then like the actual artwork inside of the book isn't necessarily that way. I mean, there's parts, obviously, but like for the most part, it was kind of like their selling point. And then the most recent edition, Volume 4, with the nice matte cover edition as well. So yeah, I like me some Witchblade. It's good stuff, good stories, kind of. Stepyan Sejic does some of the artwork, which gets really good in this, wherever that is. I'm going to flash forward to Aphrodite 9, because this is also like a Top Cow kind of thing. So again, it's like a childhood thing. It's that early 2000s kind of artwork, similar to Witchblade. Well, Stepyan Sejic does like the beginning half, and it's just really beautiful artwork. It's a sci-fi. Yeah, this is really cool, but this was out of print forever, and I finally found a copy come on Amazon and was able to grab it. But I really love this story. It's like completely confined to this one specific hardcover, so you get the full story in one go. Unlike a lot of these other collected editions, like those Witchblades, I mean, those could go on for like another 4 or 5. I mean, there's some cool special features at the back and the cover arts you can see here. Anyway, good story, good book, good sci-fi. Let's put that over there. Then we have some Spider-Man. I've got Miles Morales. I got really into the Miles Morales Spider-Man stuff probably in like 2016, 2017. I really, really loved this book. But then at the end of it, it had to do basically what the Marvel movies do, and it had to fit into the main narrative of what was going on in the rest of the comics. Now, mind you, I didn't read the rest of the comics, so like it starts to get really frustrating to read this book and then feel like you don't know exactly what's going on, and you have to cross-reference other stories and other things. And then the worst part of it is by the end of this, you know, this is the beginning of Miles Morales' stuff. But by the end, because the rest of the Ultimate Marvel Universe was coming to a collapse, it all imploded on itself, and Miles Morales, along with that, got teleported over to like the 313 universe or whatever that's called. And so essentially, all of the arcs and amazing work that Miles Morales goes through in here is reset here. Even though it's the same character and technically a continuation. So like people that die in his world, really traumatic moments, growing moments for him, are basically those characters are just back to being alive here. And it just becomes a really convoluted shitstorm. And it really made me realize like reading Marvel kind of sucks. Like if you don't read these comics while they're coming out and read all of them, they just worse than the movies. Like, right, you can go see like Marvel's Endgame and not see the rest of the Avengers movies, and you'd figure out what's going on. These comics, they need so much additional context, and parts of the stories are like actually missing from these omnibus because they're part of like, you know, Avengers comics or whatever the hell, and it just gets really messy, and it sucks because it was such a great story. And stuff in this one is so good too, but then eventually it starts to feel meaningless because you just jump ahead and some big event has happened and you don't know about it. Characters are dying, coming back. It really kind of pissed me off. So they're very well written though, and I really like them on their own, but I feel bad for the writers like Bendis. He has to fit into everything else. So yeah, if you think the Marvel movies are frustrating, the comics are far more frustrating. And like, I haven't read obviously that many, so take my opinion lightly. But if you're kind of like a light comic person who wants to get into Miles Morales or wants to get into Batman or something like that, I just think that for the most part, it's just so messy. I want contained stories that like the one writer gets to like do their thing. So anyway, the multiverses, they're chaotic in those, and they really just get messy. The next batch, you can kind of tell, holy shit, I am out of breath. Whew. Okay, this next batch is my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collection, of which I've got volumes 1 through 14. I've only read 1 through 10, so I've read a lot of them. This is some of the best comic book material that exists. I'm a huge fan, a huge proponent of this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comics book series run. They even got the involvement of the original creator, Kevin Eastman, to help be a part of this. And I think they're absolutely phenomenal. They're easy to pick up and read. The cool thing about this collection is that they do end up getting to a point where there are other universes, there are other comic book spin-offs and things like that. But everything that exists in the IDW Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles world is contained within these books. So if there is a spin-off that's important, it's here. You can actually read everything you need to read. I will say, somewhere in the middle, like 7 or 8, 9, like, it starts to get a little bogged down with its spin-offs, and eventually I'm kind of like, okay, I don't need to read, like, 6 issues of, you know, Bebop and Rocksteady. I kind of want to get along with the story. So sometimes you might skip a few of them, and that can be kind of frustrating if you're spending, you know, $25, $30 on a book like this, and then, like, half of it isn't progressing the story. But, for the most part, I think it's the cleanest way to collect comics, from one universe, and they've done a great job. Big fan of them. I love the artwork, obviously. And then I have The Last Ronin, which I thought was a great book. Really enjoyed this. And the sequel, The Last Ronin Lost Years, which I love the art here. I love these matte finishes. These books are so nice. IDW does such a great job. And their retail price is like $30 for these. I think these retail at $50, but most of the time, if you're using like in-stock trades or cheapgraphicnovels.com, you can get them for like $25, like half off. And I mean, back when I was buying these, I think I got them for even cheaper than that. So yeah, I think that for the quality of the books, it's actually really impressive how inexpensive they are. And it's very easy to get into, and I love them. So if you're a Ninja Turtle fan, read those comics. They're really good. Is that too dark? It probably looks better, but I had to turn that light down. It was just like burning me alive. So I'm just breaking a fucking sweat over here. Okay, next we have my Power Rangers collection. The Power Rangers story gets kind of like confusing too. So the actual beginning of it is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which I have as volume 1. Fantastic book. I was really blown away by this. I'm very nostalgic for Power Rangers from my childhood, obviously, like I am for Ninja Turtles. So you might think, is a Power Ranger book going to be good? I think it's the best Power Rangers has ever been in any sort of medium, and now that's not saying much because the TV show is really hard to watch if you go back to it. And of course there's the movie, which is fun, but it's mostly nostalgic. But the storytelling's actually really good here, and these first three build up to a climax that happens in Shattered Grid, which I think is a really well done, great story. And this is kind of like the finale of the original kind of section of books here. And then I think that the series kind of was struggling to find its next path with this one, but I personally still really enjoyed it. It starts to get into like deep Power Ranger lore, like Power Rangers in space, and kind of connecting all of the Power Rangers universes in a way that I actually really quite enjoyed. And then I think it's at its strongest in these Necessary Evil books, which is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Volume 5 and Volume 6. I also love the covers of these. And this is when it's written by Ryan Perot, or Ryan Parrott. I don't know how to say his name. But I think he's one of the best writers of the Power Rangers series, and he does a long stretch of them. So, those 6 are Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but then the thing is, after Shattered Grid, it gets very, like, multiverse and very crazy. So, what they did that I think was actually really nice is they kind of went back in time and did just, like, a back-to-basics, the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, like, before the Green Ranger and all that stuff. And that is Go-Go Power Rangers, which is almost more like a coming-of-age story. And these are, like, the Power Rangers more focused on, like, them going to high school and their interactions with other kids at the school. And I really, really love this book so much. These 2 books, it's a full story. It ends with the pink one. These 2 together are phenomenal. Absolutely love Go-Go Power Rangers and highly recommend them. And by the end, it does cross over with Necessary Evil, so you're kind of double dipping a little bit. There's some crossover in the comics. The timelines kind of merge. So that's all I have for Power Rangers. I didn't show you earlier, I have some trade paperbacks. They do continue the series on with Ryan Perot writing. It gets a little convoluted, though, because it's kind of balancing 2 timelines. One's called Mighty Morphin, and one's called Power Rangers, which gets very difficult when you're trying to look it up and trying to figure out what comes next in the series. So that's messy, because you have Mighty Morphin going alongside Power Rangers, and eventually they come back together for another new run of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I haven't read the newest stuff, but I do love the writing, so if you can figure out how it's supposed to work, I think it's a fun journey to go on, and it's really great binge material. Oh God, I do not recommend filming in a closet with a bright-ass light on you. I am dying of heat. This is awful. We're down to my last set of books here, which you can probably see what they are already. They're over here in this corner. These Tomb Raider books are amazing. They're massive. They retailed at $39.99. I got them all for $25 on Amazon when they came out, and they're huge. Like, these books are so big. This first one includes that Mystic Artifacts I was talking about earlier. So, as a kid, I had that and a couple one-shots, so I never was able to read the full story. It's not like the writing has some crazy amount of depth to it or anything like that. It's just that they're really fun adventure stories. They remind me of James Bond stories, Indiana Jones stories. I love the artwork in them, and seeing them on these big splash pages just makes it even better. You know, these are just awesome books with, yeah, just fantastic art, which is by, yeah, Andy Park. And he does, like, the whole first 2.5 books of this, and it's just so good. Yeah, you get some cool skiing scenes. Like, she's just doing all sorts of crazy stuff in these books. Obviously, a little bit sexualized there as well, so I guess that's why I liked it so much as a 12-year-old. I used to just sit here and draw pictures like this, and I don't know, I guess my parents were chill with it, because I'd just show it to them. But yeah, these books are sweet. They've been out of print forever, though. So, like, these first couple editions are just really worth a lot of money. I did a review on my channel years ago, kind of going over these. Oh, yeah, but occasionally the art switches to, like, different people. I'm like, just look how weird that looks. There's definitely some strange art at times in this book. I still think the story has some interesting through lines. There's some material left out of these books that's, like, crossover events, because Top Cow tried to do their own crossovers. So they actually cross over with Witchblade and Fathom. And I've got the single shot editions of those. That's kind of like how I got into Witchblade, I guess, because it was just kind of within this Tomb Raider stuff. Now, Volume 4 is by far the most skippable one because the majority of this is this story called Journeys, which just has up through it like this, just to kind of show you. It's just not anything impressive. Kind of weird looking. Not a big fan of the art here. But then, the back part does have some really epic stories with some really cool art, like this one. Like, look how cool that is. That's so stylized and fun. Yeah, I mean, just very painterly. And then at the end, you have this kind of like lifelike story in here that's like got this very lifelike art that kind of real life looking imagery that I think is done very well. And then you get, you know, photo galleries at the back. This is the classic Andy Park stuff that I just think is really good. Yeah, this is from Journeys. Like, you can see how these are the covers too, so this is the stuff they spent time on. But it's just so weird looking. I'm not a big fan of that art. I just think Andy Park stuff has a little bit of class and style to it that I really love. But yeah, so that is the end of my comic book collection. Let me know what you think of it. If that was an interesting kind of video for you, let me know in the comments below. It obviously sounded like I don't like a lot of the stuff. I don't love my Batman or Spider-Man stuff, I guess. And I'm kind of just burnt out on superhero stuff, so I think that I tend to enjoy things that's a little bit more adventure. Obviously, TMNT and Power Rangers kind of like superhero adjacent, but it's not like traditional Marvel, DC, bogged down by those universes. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. As I get absorbed into my closet, feel free to like, subscribe, follow me on Letterboxd. I mostly do movies. I love you. Thank you for watching. Oh, shit.